News Radio 840 WHAS. Good Sunday morning. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. And this is our holiday show on the day before Christmas. I'm Bob Sokoler. Thanks for joining us. The Louisville Real Estate Show till the top of the hour. With us on the show, Brad Lawler, who's the owner of the Home Team Inspection Service and Team Bug Out. They do a great job coming in as a team and inspecting your home, as well as now being able to get rid of those pesky critters. No, I'm not talking about neighbors. I'm talking about mice and bugs and the like. And Brad with Home Team is also now located not only in Frankfort, but also in Lexington. You can reach Brad at 844-411-TEAM. Also here, Chuck Crosby. He is the owner of the Crosby Law Offices. Among phenomenal closings, he does a great job. I just in the process of scheduling one for this next couple of weeks. But he also does something else, a variety of other things, including wills. And here at the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024, if you don't have a will, folks, I highly suggest you reach out to Chuck for whatever reason. Closing, wills, and more. 499-6360 is his direct number. And if you're thinking about selling in the near future, next year or beyond, I'd love to be able to come out, help you. We have a talk about what the plan should be and then create a path to get to that plan. It's a free, no obligation visit. All you have to do is give me a call at 376-5483 or go to bobsellslouisville.com. Coming up, this is a themed show. This one is going to deal with holidays and the beginning of 2024 and winter. And coming up in a bit, holiday mistakes that actually bring burglars to your door. All right, gentlemen, shall we get going?
Yes, sir.
Let's start it with Chuck over at the Crosby Law Office. Hannah is buying her first home and is scheduled to close the first week of January. And in this email, Hannah asks, will the holiday season in the first couple of weeks of January create problems or impact the closing timeline? Chuck Crosby.
Probably not. There may very well be a couple of days that the county clerk isn't open, but that's not going to be a problem. It depends mostly on the outfit you're closing with. And as I see it, January 1 is on a Monday, so that might not close on the first day of the week, and the 25th, it might not close, obviously, Christmas Day, though, it's possible. But as for getting payoffs, getting all the information that we would need to do a closing, the holidays generally aren't an issue. We got a contract just now. Property is supposed to close by the end of the year. It's not going to be a problem.
Good. That's the beauty of working with Chuck Crosby. You can get the job done no matter what the time frame is, which I really appreciate. So do other realtors throughout our area, and hopefully our buyers and sellers as well. If, by the way, you want to see a rebroadcast of this show, easy. We'd make it very easy. Go to LouisvilleAnswers.com. That is a redirect, so it's www.LouisvilleAnswers.com. It takes you to our YouTube channel, where this show will be waiting for you, including video of the show. We go back over to Brad Lawler over at Home Team Inspection Service. Michael sent us an email with the following question for you, Brad. He plans on buying a house in January or February, and he's asking, how might winter weather affect the home inspection process, especially during a colder time of the year? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. There are some things that we have some limitations to. We have challenges when there's snow on roofs. We cannot see the condition of asphalt shingles or really any shingles at all. But keep in mind there are two sides to that roof. So we can still get up in the attic. We can look to see if there's any sort of leaks that are going on in there. So not all hope is lost in winter weather. Keep in mind that, if you live in places like Minnesota and Wisconsin, they don't see their roofs for, 4, 5, 6 months out of the year. So that's one of the limitations. The other thing that we're limited in is being able to test air conditioners. That's something that is, you can't run an air conditioner once the temperature is down below technically 50 degrees. It can potentially damage compressors. So that is the other limitation that we have. Unfortunately, there's not a workaround on that one except retesting it on a during a period of time that it's been warmer. So we'd always, recommend for those clients that buy a house in the winter to make sure that they have that AC unit serviced before they fire it up in the springtime. Other than that, everything else is pretty much the normal. We have to be very careful about ice. In some areas might become inaccessible due to ice around the house, but other than that, it's pretty much we can do home inspections year round.
We have a number of questions based on winter weather for you, Brett. So we may be revisiting the HVAC question again. Okay. I have a couple of questions for you. A reminder, if you would like to hear and see what our sellers say about us, we're very proud of our reviews. You can go to LouisvilleSellersTalk.com. That's LouisvilleSellersTalk.com. I do interviews with a lot of our sellers at the closing table, so just take a look. Again, reminder coming up a little bit later, holiday mistakes that bring burglars to your door. Chuck Crosby over at the Crosby Law Office, Megan, sent us an email about weather-related contingencies during the winter. Specifically, Megan is wondering, are there provisions in the purchase agreement that address ice or snowstorms that would delay inspections for closing or deadlines due to inclement weather? She's also asking if the closing date can be extended if weather conditions impact the closing process. How do you handle that, Chuck?
Well, agreements can be made between the parties at any point. So even if you've locked yourself into a contract that says, no, this is the drop dead date. Well, unless it contains the magic language, then everything is, in some cases, movable. And even if the language says it's not, you can always, get with them and say, hey, obviously we just got 5 feet of snow. I can't get my inspector in there. We need to bump some days. But people can agree on these things.
Yeah, the only time I think I see problems with weather-related delays is if there's a domino effect, if there are multiple closings, right? Then it affects everybody, right?
It does. And I can tell you, it sounds like it could be. This is one of those things, we're always thinking about the worst case scenario. At least that's what I do. And then you try and protect against every contingency you can think of. But honestly, in the last 30 years, there's been problems like that. But we do what we can. I always keep in mind that I was born and raised 40 miles north of Syracuse, New York, where there's 7 foot of snow a year on average. I have never not been able to get to my office to do a closing. Now, there have been people that maybe got stuck in the parking lot, and I have a very large truck to help pull them out. But we have never not been able to do a closing based on snow.
Yep.
I can literally walk from my house to the office to get that done. A matter of pride, having grown up where I did, that I will not allow that to happen.
Even in a snowstorm, you're going to walk from your house to
the
office.
Okay. I have.
Yeah. All right. Good. I'm proud of you. Good for you. We move back over to Brad Lawler of Home Team. Zachary has an interesting question. In this email he sent me, he's wondering if there are any potential problems during the home inspection. He has scheduled next week because of electrical overload or holes holding up holiday lighting. So he basically wonders, do inspectors check to make sure that the holiday lighting receptacles are wired correctly or properly grounded, or holes are left by holiday lights that are up right now?
All right. Well, that's a good question. As far as the holes go, let's start there first.
Yeah.
So if holiday lights are in place when we inspect a house, we're not looking to see how those lights are routed. Now, if we happen to notice that there's a hole in the siding, say, and it's obvious, we'll point that out as a defect because we want to make sure we don't get any water, inside walls. But how the lights are hung, we're not gonna comment on that. We don't do any sort of comments on the adequacy of, say, outdoor receptacles to be able to light a house. I mean, that would be outside the scope of a home inspection. We would be looking for, I'm just thinking through here as far as GFCIs. I mean, sometimes we're going to test those anyway. So any of the outlets that we have access to, we're going to be able to test, but it wouldn't necessarily be something that's specific to holiday lights. Sometimes we're asked questions like people will say, hey, is this circuit going to be big enough to put in, say, an air conditioner, a window air conditioning unit in a shed, for instance? That's somewhat a common question. People want to run an extension cord. That's a question for the electrician. The home inspector is going to look to see whether the wiring size on that outlet is matching up with the rating on the circuit breaker in the panel. So that's really what the scope of the home inspection is going to be. Make sure those things match up, not what it might be able to do for future loads. That would be a question for the electrician.
Okay, good. If you're thinking about signing up for our bi-monthly newsletter, we make it simple. Go to welovelouisville.com. That's welovelouisville.com, and you'll be able to subscribe to our newsletter. We go back over to Chuck Crosby and the Crosby Law Office. Harry brought up an interesting question that all buyers and sellers should probably pay attention to. In the email he sent me, that bob@wesellouisville.com, he's asking if there's damage to a house because of snow or ice, wind, and other things like that, do the sellers have to disclose that information? He also is asking if they disclose it, what can Harry do if he's not happy with the damage that was done? And so, by the way, what he's saying is, let's say there was water that got in under the roof and into the attic, and then it was cleared up, and they have to disclose it. But what if Harry's saying, I'm not so happy with the way it was done or the level of repair? Can he back out of the contract is what he's asking. I know it's a loaded question. Yeah.
In the inspection, there's a lot there. Can't speak to specific situations, but the first part is, if there's any kind of damage, disclose it. If you fixed it, great. Tell them how you fixed it. It sounds like at this point you're asking, can he come back and say, well, I don't like the way you fixed it? Well, during the inspection period, he can say, hey, I see how you repaired this. I don't like that. Re-repair it. And if they say no, well, then that does give him the option to back out.
So there's a fine line, though, between saying, well, it's repaired to what it needs to be as opposed to what you want it to be.
Exactly.
How is that decided, Chuck?
Well, as everything in the law, by the reasonable man standard. And what is that? Well, what a reasonable person in that community would expect. The fact is, if you have a toilet that needs repaired or replaced. You can ask that it be replaced, but you can't demand that it be replaced by a golden toilet from Trump Towers. It's just not. That's not reasonable. So it comes down to what both sides consider reasonable. If they can't agree on what's reasonable, well, that's when attorneys get involved.
And that's...
problems, right? You're in the inspection period, you've got an awful lot of leeway there to say, no, I just don't like the way the place looks. I don't like how it's put together. And then, go from there.
You can pull out on the inspection clause. Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, holiday mistakes that bring burglars to your door. Eye-opening information. Continuing with us, Chuck Crosby, the Crosby Law Offices. You can reach him to schedule a closing, do your wills, or a variety of other things. 499-6360. Also, Brad Lawler is with us, owner of Home Team Inspection Service and Team Bugout. You can reach Brad and his group at 844-411-TEAM. You're thinking of selling or buying this year, what's left of it, next year, the years beyond, I would love to help you. Call me for a free, no-obligation analysis. We can talk. I can come out and visit in person. It's no cost and no obligation. You can reach me at 376-5483 or go to bobsellslouisville.com. We're back in a moment on News Radio 840 WHAS. News Radio 840 WHAS. Bob Sokoler here with the Louisville Real Estate Show till the top of the hour. Thank you for staying with us, folks. Continuing with us, Brad Lawler, who's owner of the Home Team Inspection Service and Team Bugout. You can reach them to schedule your service, whether it's, I just had mine, my Team Bugout checkup for a variety of varmints that are at my place, possibly, and they did a great job. And you can also schedule an inspection, 844-411 team. Also here, continuing, Chuck Crosby. He's the owner of the Crosby Law Office. They do a great job of getting you closed. You can choose the closing attorney that you want. Chuck can do a great job. And I also put in a plug for his putting together a will for you. It's important, and everyone should have one. And then if you're thinking of selling now or in the future, I'd love to be able to help you. If you want, give me a call, a free, no obligation analysis so we can create a path of how to get you on the market. And you heard probably, at least I hope you have, that interest rates are coming down and expected to come down 3 times. At least that's what we're hearing in 2024. Anyway, you can reach Chuck to get things rolling for you and for me and for Brad. You can reach me at 376-5483 or go to bobsellslouisville.com. We go back over to Brad Lawler over at Home Team with this question that came in. Ashley's planning on buying a home this winter, and she's wondering now that interest rates are coming down. Well, obviously, Ashley heard. She sent us an email asking if there are potential roof or plumbing problems that could arise during an inspection that might impact the inspection report during the winter time. And you actually addressed this in the first part of the show, but let's go into it a little bit deeper.
Yeah, so I think the roof is very often a question just because, there are days that you're going to have snow on the roof and you're just not going to be able to see things. It's not many. In the last several seasons, we've had, a handful of days each year. You always have the option of having someone come back out, a few days later to inspect just the roof surface once it is uncovered. That's less common. Typically, again, we're looking at the underside of the roof to see, what type of leaks might be there. On plumbing, hopefully with the exception of hose bibs outside, most of the water in the house should be operating as normal. Oftentimes people will shut down the hose bibs outside. I've already done that at my house because of the couple of rounds of cold weather that we've had. But everything else should be operating. Home inspectors aren't allowed to open any valves, so we wouldn't reopen a hose bib that is shut off. So there is an expectation that they work okay, but there's always, the one thing I would warn is if the homeowner didn't understand how to properly close down that hose bib, drain the valve, there could be water left in that line. It could break if it freezes, and you would only discover that once everything thaws back out. So very, very, it's kind of a worst case scenario. They happen out there not very frequently, but just, be aware of it. Other than that, really a home inspection, in cold weather is very similar to any other day of the year.
Brad, if people are traveling away for the holiday season and maybe late already for some people, but maybe they're going the beginning of January or holiday, do you suggest they turn the water off while they're away?
So, yeah, I think there's two. We'll take both sides. Some people will shut it off at the street. They just cut the whole house off. I think with the digital meters, it's really not as possible anymore. Some people will shut the main water valve off at the house. Hopefully you know where your main water valve is. Everyone should know, just in case there is a break, so that you can shut the water off to the whole house. That's not a bad idea to do that if you're going to be gone for a prolonged period of time, especially if you have water lines that are on outside walls. A lot of washing machines have those connections on an outside wall. They are very prone to freezing and because there's no water running through them. So you cut the water off to your washing machine, or if you've got a kitchen sink, say that's on that outside wall, you're looking out in the backyard, lovely view, but it's also a colder space. So if you're going to leave those doors open, let a little bit more heat get into them. You may want to keep a little, pencil, wet stream of water flowing through there if it's just for a short period of time. But yeah, if you're going to be away for any period of time, shutting off that main water valve is probably a good idea. Just understand that if you do that, it may leak. So don't do it as you're walking out the door. Okay, give it
the hose, the bib itself,
the valve itself. The valve itself may leak if it hasn't been turned for a long time. So that may be something you do, even a few days before you leave. That way, if you do have a little bit of a leak, you can deal with it before you walk out the door.
And once you turn it off, then open up the faucets to let whatever pressure is in there out.
Yeah.
I take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially if you've got water lines that run through the attic, you definitely want to drain those out. Mm-hmm.
So that leads us to what happens. What mistakes could we all make that would bring burglars to our door, let alone water? Well, one of the things I'll go quickly, announcing holiday plans on social media. If you don't know by that, that's a no-no. displaying your Christmas tree in the window, because then you've got lights and ornaments and announces to the world that you're in the holiday spirit. But then also there could be thieves who are actually looking over your property to think about coming in when you're not there. Unloading packages in the driveway has become a big problem. Porch pirates, or if you take stuff home from the box stores and you do this instead of taking your car in the garage or in the privacy of a backyard or something, and thieves are out there looking and they see you unloading from your car to your house, they know you've got new stuff. Not making your home look like your home. If you have an empty driveway and looks like no one's living there, that could be an invitation to a burglar. So you may want to ask your neighbor to stop by and maybe put a car in the driveway. Don't leave notes on the doors for couriers that you're not home, and put the packages around back. Putting packaging on display at the curb. If you got, let's say tomorrow Santa brings TVs and a variety of other things. If you put the boxes like that new 4K big screen TV that Brad's getting. Oops.
Oh,
I didn't know that. Oh. Yeah, no, but putting the box out by the door, if you're going away, you're inviting potential problems there. Hiding a key to your front door, I know that's a great thing to do, but experienced burglars really do know. They have an idea of where you hide your keys. Make sure you lock your windows. Running electrical cords through windows and doors to light the trees and lights outside, that leaves the windows unlocked and a potential hazard for thieves going inside. And then holiday season, good cheer. We want charities coming door to door, and obviously there's donations, but be really careful when they come to your door that they're not casing your house. Just some of the things that are advising to all of you. Happy holidays, by the way, after all that. I know it's a downer. We move back over to Chuck Crosby over at the Crosby Law Offices. Samuel wonders about insurance coverage during winter weather. So here's the deal, Chuck. A friend of Samuel's purchased a home last winter, and it was below freezing at the time of closing. About 4 days after closing, when things warmed up, there was a leak in the plumbing on an exterior wall. Sound familiar, Brad? You just mentioned that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, an exterior wall by the bathroom. The seller said it was not his problem since he had already sold the house. Samuel says that after going back and forth, the friend ended up having to have the repairs made at the friend's costs. So Samuel is wondering, how does he and others who are listening to us protect themselves on that type of an issue? What are your suggestions on this, Chuck?
Oh, obviously, stuff like that is where lawyers get involved. Okay, when you can't decide, or when the parties can't assign dollar amounts between each other, well, that's when lawyers get involved, and then we go from there. Now, there's no one answer to that question. Did they do something unreasonable? Did they improperly winterize? What was the cause? That's where we would start. The thing that I always like to point out when I get that phone call is, well, you got to fix it. So get it fixed. That gives you a baseline on what the damages are. And then you can go back and say, hey, look, you didn't winterize properly. This was a problem prior to closing. So, we want to take care of that. Determining when it occurred. And who should have taken care of it at that point is what will come into play. But how do you protect yourself from that? Well, you can't protect yourself from everything. When you do your walkthrough, maybe make sure that it's properly winterized, I guess. But how many people actually do that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's an issue. But again, I think the first thing is go to an attorney, right?
Right. Yeah. Get it fixed first. That's the thing. And that gives you a baseline. Most people are like, well, I don't want to have to pay for it. I want the other people to pay for it. Well, the fact is it's got to be fixed. You've got to mitigate the damages. You can't just let the thing keep leaking. So you got to get it fixed. And that's when it cuts off in time, and gives you an exact number that you're going for. And that's what the courts are looking for, is a dollar amount of damage.
Yeah. And remember, go to your real estate agent first, have them contact the other side and see if they can work this out amicably before you start moving toward the attorney.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. The lawyers are when you can't agree.
We move back over to Brad Lawler, Home Team Inspection Service. Daniel, purchasing a home this winter, is planning on having an inspection, and in this email, he is wondering how a home inspector inspects the cooling. Remember, we talked about this earlier, the cooling ability of an air conditioner when the temperature is in the 20s or 30s outside. So what can be done? Because a lot of people want to buy a home during the winter, but if you can't inspect it, can HVAC companies who do this for a living come out and inspect?
You could talk to them. I think the short answer is they're going to tell you no. Yeah. As I understand it, I'm not an HVAC expert, but as I understand it, the tables that the HVAC technicians use to gauge refrigerants only go to 60 degrees. I mean, technically, you're not supposed to run a unit below 60. Now, we can all argue that, units run, compressors run below 60 degrees. It may be warm inside and, still 50 outside, and they run. But home inspectors generally do not test if it's below 60 degrees because of the refrigerants and the oils that make everything spin and run. HVAC technicians are also concerned about doing that same damage. They have additional gear, pressure gear that they can put on the system. They may be able to run it a little bit, lower, but, at 20 degrees, at 30 degrees, no one's going to run those systems. They're going to have to wait until there's a warmer day, in order to safely operate that unit.
You mentioned it was 60 degrees of the cutoff for testing?
Yeah, 60 degrees is the cutoff. Again, I know people argue all the time. Well, it's going to run lower than that, but that's just when you start running into problems with potential damage, especially if it's been cold overnight and all of the oil settled down into the crankcase. That's really where you can cause the damage.
Before you call an HVAC company, make sure you check their reviews. That's important if you want to see our reviews, because we're really proud of them. Go to LouisvilleZillow.com or LouisvilleGoogle.com. All right, final question going over to Chuck Crosby in the Crosby Law Office. Olivia sent us an interesting email with regards to snow or ice on sidewalks or driveways, Chuck. I haven't seen this question before. She's wondering if there's a way to find out what obligations a new homeowner may have regarding cleaning of sidewalks or driveways with snow or ice. She's wondering maybe the new property owner doesn't know. And she's wondering, their covenants, conditions. She's looked in hers of the new house she's bought, but she says it hasn't been addressed, sidewalks or driveways. Could she be in trouble for not clearing a sidewalk? And if so, how can she find out what she needs to do, and a new homeowner might want to know?
Well, if we're talking that there's an HOA, if you can't get a hold, or if once you've looked at the documents, you don't see anything. And honestly, I'm trying to think, in my HOA, it does mention who takes care of that sort of thing. But I don't know that I've seen it in other documents, at least not too frequently. I'd call the HOA management company or the president of the board. I mean, that's what they're there for. If there is a management company, call them rather than the president, because usually, the president's going to be a non-paid local, neighbor, and the management company takes care of that. So that's who I would call. And just find out what they say. I know in ours, the HOA is responsible for cleaning sidewalks and driveways and that sort of thing, and they do a fairly good job. But if you have somebody that comes to your house that slips and falls, they're not going to be going to your HOA management company. So in any situation, you want to make sure that you've double checked and made sure that everything's good.
It's a really good question. We haven't had that one before, and I think that's great. So thank you very much for submitting that. If you want to see a rebroadcast of this show, go to LouisvilleAnswers.com. That's LouisvilleAnswers.com. It's a video version on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to watch this entire thing in video. Our thanks to our participants today. Brad Lawler, owner of Home Team Inspection Service and Team Bug Out. They come in as a team. They do a great job. They're the number one Home Team Inspection Service 8 years in a row. Hoping
8 years so far.
We're going to see more. 844-411-TEAM to get your home inspected or to get bug the service to get rid of those pesky rodents and bugs. Also, Chuck Crosby, the Crosby Law Offices, they do a great job of getting your loan closed. Also, Chuck does a variety of other things, and I'm really talking about wills because I think it's so important for all of us. Call Chuck directly. He'll talk to you about it. 499-6360. And if you're thinking of selling your home now or in the near future, next year, beyond, I would love to come out, have a talk with you about what the process is. It's free, no obligation. It's what I love to do, talking about real estate. You can reach me anytime, whether you're buying or selling, 376-5483, or go to bobsellslouisville.com. We're out of time. Happy holidays. Hope you have a great Merry Christmas tomorrow, and good luck, Santa Claus, getting around. Hopefully it'll be a nice, smooth ride for you. We're out of time. See you next Sunday on News Radio 840 WHAS.